What's going on? What's going on? Hope y'all can rock with me. As I said, I'm riding from Atlanta to DC, so I thought I'd go ahead and make a few videos, touch on a few topics. As you're coming in the room, do me a favor. As you're coming in the room, do me a favor. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button. I was talking on this topic a few minutes ago, but I realized we got disconnected. Stream was a little choppy, so hopefully we can I'm getting back on the freeway now. Had to stop off for gas and stuff. So hopefully we can get a good stream in. So as I was saying, guys, the pro life v pro choice debate is the one area that the Democrats have an actual an actual position that they can say we support that the Republicans don't, and it be believed. When it comes to 2024 is an election year, and when it comes to all the major policies, the Republicans and the Democrats, in practice, are aligned. Joe Biden, the president of the United States, when he was running for president in 2020, he said that if Medicare for all passed Congress, he would veto it. He would flat out veto Medicare for all, even if it passed Congress. This is the Democratic Party. AOC, when challenged by Jimmy Dore to fight for Medicare for all. At least let's get a vote on it. Let's get a House vote. Let's use your leverage of Nancy Pelosi running for Speaker of the House to demand in the middle of 2020, in the middle of a worldwide epidemic. Everyone complains about the $1,500 stimulus that's supposed to support an entire country who were forced out of their jobs, forced into isolation. Everyone complains about giving them $1,500, but the conversation of Medicare for all shall not be uttered by Bernie Sanders or AOC, except for speaking against it in the middle of a worldwide pandemic. These are the left wing, the left wing side of the Democratic Party. Bernie Sanders, he's one of the most leftists in the Democratic Party, running as an independent, but running for president as a Democrat. AOC, they brand themselves as the leftists, the progressives. But in the middle of a worldwide epidemic, they fight against those who are calling for a House vote for Medicare for all. Okay, that's the Democratic Party. As far as war, as far as war, you would think that the Republicans would be the war hawks. You would think that would be a Republican stance. Let's push the military industrial complex. But Donald Trump, when he's president, causes no new wars. And the Democratic Party, even when Donald Trump was president, the Democratic Party was demonizing Russia, calling Trump a Putin puppet. Okay, call him a Putin puppet, but there were no new wars. Now, under Joe Biden and the Democrats, we're headed for World War III between Russia and China. The Democratic Party, led by Joe Biden, has done nothing but unite China, Russia, the BRICS nations, and weaken the United States. That's a fact. So, who in good conscience can say we need to vote for Democrats as the lesser of two evils? What makes the Democrats so much lesser? I don't understand. When it comes to immigration, the Republicans are saying, "Hey, we need strong borders. We need to protect our national security. We're moving to world. We are moving towards a World War III situation." And the Democrats are opening sanctuary cities where the U.S. citizens, tax-paying citizens, are getting screwed. The death toll, the murder rate in Chicago is higher than the height of Iraq. But that same city of Chicago can give $51 million in 1 month to house illegal immigrants as a sanctuary city and give the black folks or just all Chicago citizens, U.S. citizens, zilch, nada. So what makes the Democratic Party so much of a lesser of two evils? The only thing that I could think of that would give the Democrats a leg to stand on is the debate over pro-life and pro-choice. So we're going to break that down today. If you made it this far in the video, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. We're going to get into it today. I got a long ride. It's a new format. Y'all tell me if y'all rocking with the car viz. I know I got the cam or the windshield, the rear view mirror is a little bit off with the placement, but y'all rock with me. We're going to get into it. So as I'm saying, the only legislation, the only difference between the Republicans and the Democrats that's tangible, that you can notice in your life, that the Democrats have to point to on solid ground, is the pro-life v. pro-choice debate. Now, before we get into it, I got to give you some background information on myself so you understand my perspective and, so you understand, get into this debate. First of all, in my personal life, as a believer of the Most High, I do not believe in abortion. I'm pro-life. Now, to be fair, I'm a man. If you couldn't tell, if you didn't know my gender, yes, I'm a man. So this debate would be much more of a touchy topic or subject for a woman. I would understand that. But coming from a man's perspective, speaking as a male, who I've never told a woman to get an abortion. If a woman told me she wanted to get an abortion, I would tell her she shouldn't, with the only exceptions being situation of grape. I'm choosing my words lightly because of the algorithm, but situations of grape and situations of health of the mother. With the, I would not, I would not excuse a schmortion. Let's say that. I would not advise a woman to get a schmortion. I believe that once you've laid down, you've made the consensual decision to do grown folk stuff. The fruits of that, the consequences of that act, you have to be ready to take that too. And just as for men, if a woman chooses to have a baby that you don't want, once you've laid down and she gets pregnant, you have no more say. You will be legally and financially responsible for that act. I think the same has to go for women, except for the situation of grape where your consent was taken from you, or that your health, which a bird in hand is better than one and two in the bush, right? So with those two exceptions, you got to take responsibility for your actions, as far as I'm concerned. Now that's my personal opinion, though. From a legal standpoint, if I'm a ruler of a country, if I'm president, if I'm pharaoh, if I'm, King Louis, and I'm ruling a country, it would be my directive that abortion or smortion should not be illegal. Women should be left up to make up their own minds because it's their decision ultimately. Why do I say that? Because legally, as a ruler, I would not want to be responsible for policing hundreds of millions of people. There are hundreds of millions. What is it, like 260 million people in the United States? hundreds of millions of people, and you want the United States government to be responsible for mandating what they can and cannot do with their own bodies? Do you know what a task that is? Their own bodies, not murdering someone else. That's understandable, but their own bodies. If a woman wants to have delete her her baby prior to birth, she can do it with or without the government. With the government, we have doctors. She can do it safely. Without legal protections, she's going to Six Flags, riding on roller coasters. She's down in alcohol, and if the baby survives, it's not coming out nice. She's falling down stairs on purpose. She's getting in fights, getting punched in the gut, joining MMA, taking UFC classes. She's going to do what she wants to do, ultimately. And by pushing it underground and making it illegal, you're endangering the mother, and you're putting a large strain on United States government resources to have to police that and prosecute that. Can you imagine being a prosecutor? There's people dying, getting murdered in the streets, getting robbed, getting raped, and what's coming across your desk as your case, you have to work on is some 16-year-old girl decided to slide down some stairs on her stomach to get rid of, you know, to get rid of her baby. That's a hard case. That's a hard case as a prosecutor to pick up. Let me tell you, I wouldn't want to handle that. I wouldn't want to prosecute that. And it's a your career is done. Can you imagine? You see how they did Kamala Harris prosecuting people for smoking weed out there in California. Just imagine you got to prosecute a woman, a 16-year-old, not a woman, a child, a 16-year-old for sliding down some stairs or going to Six Flags and having an intentional abortion. You got to prosecute that. Whew. Your career is over. Do not run for judge. Do not pass go. It's over. It's a wrap. So why would you put yourself in that position as a ruler, as a government official, as a policy that we're going to mandate and police every woman and her pregnancy? No, no. From a policy perspective, that's it's ridiculous. So I think that America is one of the wisest governments constitutionally. Our constitution is set up so cold. The separation between church and state is one of the things that makes America uh, beautiful. As a follower of the Most High, there's certain morals and principles that I live by in my life that I would not want to force on everybody in the country and then mandate that the United States government police that. No, there's no way. There's no way. But we have a separation of church and state. I can act according to my morals and say, no, as for myself, I will not be encouraging any woman to get a procedure unless it be for a situation of rape or to save her own life. If I was a woman, I hope I would have those same morals and principles. But it's not for me to police and make a government policy that's going to mandate a woman to do anything with her body. So that's kind of where I stand on that debate. Now this can morph also though. The fact is, I think there's a war on American freedoms. I think that the attempt to police women's bodies in the case of this procedure is just another tangible place where the government is gaining authority over our bodies, over us as citizens. The more rights that you concede, the more rights the government will demand you concede. Like I said, I'm on a ride from Atlanta to DC, so y'all gonna have to bear with me if I take a snack. Mm, 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 mm. That's what I was saying. One thing that makes America great is the fact it's our freedoms. Not only our freedoms, which are constitutionally guaranteed, it's our rebellious spirit. Americans have a very rebellious and independent spirit that says we will not allow any tyrannical government to force us and mandate us to do anything. We don't want the government in our lives, period. Let us do for self. Let us go out and be all we can be. Government, we don't want you in our business. You can't tell us what to do. You can't mandate procedures or try to stop us from doing procedures. That common spirit amongst all Americans, whether they be black or white, that rebellious spirit is one of the things that makes America so great. In the year 2020, I was living in China. I was living in Beijing. 对，我说中文。对，我就是在中国。Yes, I lived in China. We got disconnected. What I was saying was one of the things that makes America so great, constitutionally protected and guaranteed freedoms. Peace to everybody in the video. Be sure to thumbs up button for me. But one of the things that makes America so great is our constitutionally protected freedoms. Now, in the year 2020, I'm riding from Atlanta to DC, by the way, so I want to be on here kind of just speaking my mind for a while. So y'all just rock with me. Peace to everybody on the video. Be sure to thumbs up button. But in the year 2020, I was living in China. I was living in Beijing, China. 我告诉你，对，我说中文，对，我就在中国。I lived in China. And in 2020, when COVID was going down, I saw the way that the Chinese people handled it. The Chinese culture is very compliant. They're very compliant and they're very cooperative. And in times of distress, that can be very helpful for a nation. China is homogenous, which means I would say 95% of the country are Chinese. A very small foreigner population, very small. The majority of the people in China are Chinese. They, while we look at their government as a lack of freedom, a lot of people who live in China see it as the people in authority, those government officials, they're the same as us, and they're looking for the long term best solution for us as a country. They have faith that the government is looking out for the interests of the people because They are the same people. Now, that's a very foreign concept that you might not understand if you've never been there, if you've never lived there, if you haven't been doing a lot of traveling outside of the country. That might be a difficult thing for you to believe or understand, that people could actually have faith in their government. We as Americans instinctually distrust our government. Instinctually. If our first instinct, if asked the question, hey, do you trust the government? No, no, no. I'm talking about 80% of the country, the vast majority of Americans, generational Americans, strong distrust of the government. We don't believe them, we don't trust them. That's why we want our freedom. We want as much freedom as we can get because we don't trust them. Stay away from us. Don't get in our business. We don't like new IRS agents doing these taxes. We don't want these doctors mandating that we take different procedures. We are disagreeable and rebellious. We will not comply. We want the Second Amendment to protect ourselves from any threat of a tyrannical government. Hey, listen, I don't trust the government. I want my straps. Joe Biden and you Democrats talking about you want to, you know, do some mandates, some bans on assault rifles. Listen, Americans are not rocking with that because we want our freedom, right? We want our freedoms in America because we distrust our government. Now, in China, I lived there. I'm telling you, there is a much. Now, you wouldn't believe it. In Americans, because of the narrative that's preached to us all the time, we think, oh, well, we wouldn't like it. We wouldn't want our government telling us what we can do, and we wouldn't want to not have the right to vote. So those people over there in China, they're being oppressed, and they don't, their government is oppressing them, and they all want to leave. Yes, it's true. A lot of Chinese people do want to leave China. That's true too. But there is a large segment of Chinese people that trust and believe in their government because they're homogenous. And they think these are people who are looking out after our own interests in the long term. So if I do my part as a factory worker and he does his part as a doctor and she does her part as a nurse and the politicians do their part as politicians, that's just we're all working towards the same goal. Whereas back here in America, everyone's like, I don't care about what they're doing. I don't trust none of these people. I want to do what's best for me. And as long as I'm good individually, the whole country will figure itself out. That's the difference between the Chinese perspective and the American perspective. Chinese folks are like, we're all working in this together for the long term benefit of our country as one. Whereas Americans are like, I'm looking out for myself and my family. If you look out for yourself and your family, then forget the bigger point. Everything else will work itself out. So now they're trying to make a global government. Now they're trying to make a global government, but who are the most, a one world government, but who are the most rebellious people on the planet? Who are the people who most likely to fight against the one world government? I submit to you, it'll be the American people. In 2020, I saw how compliant other countries can be. And I saw Americans say, hey, I'm not wearing that mask. I'm not taking that jab. You fire me from my job if you want to. I quit. Kyrie Irving, hello. You find me money if you want to. I do not care. I'm not going along. I'm not getting along. And you can't make me. Nah, nah, they boo boo. Remember when you were a kid? You try to tell your older sister, you can't make me. Right? You know who I'm talking to. Shout out you, sis. Nah, nah, they boo boo. You can't make me. That's the American spirit. I don't care what you say. If I don't want to do it, you can't make me. Now, there, according to the book of Revelations, I suggest you read it. Everyone who reads it gets a blessing. That's a jewel. I suggest you read it. But according to the book of Revelations, what is not, what is soon to come in the not too distant future is a one world government, is a one world government that does not allow its citizens to buy or sell unless they agree to worship Satan, the great Shaitan, by taking the mark of the beast. That's according to the book of Revelation. Now, I believe when I look at the times we're living in, as far as changes to the financial markets, as far as innovation in the space of IT and artificial intelligence, I think the world has never been in such a optimal position or had such an optimal opportunity as it is now to institute and bring in a one world government operating with a single currency. You see, the BRICS nations are challenging the US dollar. The US will not easily go down without a fight. The only solution here is what? Is compromise. BRICS nations, the US does not want you to have a stronger currency than the euro and the US dollar. Brazil and Russia and China does not want the United States to have the the oil dollar, the petrodollar, and have the ability to sanction these countries and destroy their economies with impunity. So the BRICS nations and the United States and the euro are fighting for economic power, economic supremacy. Now, the only solution, the only compromise that these nations would likely take would be a one world currency where we all share power, we all have equal power and equal say so. That's the only way that a compromise could be reached in this situation, I would think. If you see another solution, I'd be happy to hear it. You have the BRICS nations challenging the US dollar and the euro, saying we want currency supremacy. We want a currency backed by gold. We don't want your fiat currency that you use to sanction us every time we do something in our own country that has nothing to do with you. We want our own currency. The US is saying, well, we have this fiat currency. It's being inflated to no end. We're taxing our people into poverty. We cannot give up the petrodollar. That's all we have keeping this whole country afloat. So we're at a bit of an impasse. Now, the book of Revelations tells me that in the last days there will be a one world government under which there is a single currency which says no man or woman shall buy or sell lest he or she take this currency, which is the mark of the beast. I see right now, as an optimal opportunity for this principalities, these rulers of high places, to institute such a plan as a one world currency. And the people of the world would applaud it. Right now, people aren't realizing how hot this thing can turn between the BRICS nations and the US because we're keeping it to a proxy war in Ukraine. But just imagine if the US, like Poland, a NATO member, just imagine how quickly it can escalate. If Poland gets attacked, if a NATO member gets attacked, and the United States is then brought into a hot war with a nuclear power that has more nukes than us. Not only a nuclear power, don't think that China's not sitting back watching. This is a game of chess. This is a game of chess here. This is not checkers. China's sitting back watching. It has North Korea in its back pocket. Russia, you think Ukraine is our pawn. Russia's just a bishop. Russia's just a bishop or a knight, huh? Attacking that pawn. Now, anyone who plays chess knows the knight and the bishop, they're worth about 3 points. It's a solid piece. Not the strongest piece on the board, but it's a solid piece. A pawn is worth 1 point. So right now you've got that knight, Russia, attacking that pawn. And I'm driving from Atlanta to DC, so I'm just over here, talking my stuff. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button if you're rocking with me. I gotta switch headphones because I've been on the road for a while. But yeah, that knight, which is Russia, is attacking that pawn, which is Ukraine. But the king, China, sitting back there in the background, that king has other pieces waiting in the chamber. He's got rooks. He's got bishops. He's got North Korea. He's got a attack of his own, looking at Taiwan. Now this thing can turn hot, and the whole world can be affected. Right now, we're all living our lives. You might think $4 for a gallon of gas is bad. Wait till it's $8, $9, $10. Just wait. Just wait. You only need 6 months of that. 3 to 6 months of that. Just wait when things turn hot. People will be screaming for peace. But how can we have peace when the BRICS nations are saying they want a gold-backed currency, and the United States is saying, well, we need to hold on to this petrodollar? How can we have peace? Hey, I got a solution, says the powers that be. How about we compromise? How about we make a new digital currency? We can make a digital currency that everyone can accept. That way, nobody has any superior power to anybody else. We'll have a great reset. Okay, guys? Keep your land, we'll keep our land, we'll increase the peace. It'll be great. And listen, to make this digital currency so much better, we can just start to improve on our integration system by creating these new microchips. First, we'll put them in the phones and put them in the debit cards. Oh, we already have chips in our phones. We already have chips in our debit cards. But like they're doing in Sweden, before you know it, they'll be coming out with the new technology. Hey, we got this implant. Did you see the guy on 60 Minutes? He had a implant into his brain, allowed him to order a pizza with his thoughts, allowed him to search Google with his thoughts. The interviewer said, "Hey, what's the capital of Bulgaria?" My man thought it. The words came from his thoughts to the computer screen and generated the answer. Oh yeah, you better believe it. Not only that, now this is in his forehead. This is in his head. I made a video on it. This is in his head. That same video, 60 Minutes interview, this man orders a pizza to his house with his thoughts. Pizza Hut. Let me order one black olive pizza. Cheesy crust. Large. Extra like I like to eat. Right? It, 10 years down the line. We've already been through World War III. We've got a one world currency. And some of these compliant countries, looking at you, China, they say, oh yeah, we can get our people to take this integrated system into their heads. It'll be great. It'll help you get your work done. You can't compete without it. How can you go to a job interview and compete with somebody who has been integrated into the system by getting an implant in his head that allows him to search Google for answers while he's in the job interview? You're going to compete with that? There's a man who has a chip implanted into his head that allows him to search Google for the answers for any answer that he wants. And you're just going to go in there as a mere human and get by on your personality and good looks? No, I don't think so. The only way you're going to be able to compete is by accepting these upgrades, these implants. It's the only way you're going to be able to compete. Then people are going to accept it, applaud it, and be grateful for it. People are going to be grateful for it. Now, of all the people who are going to be grateful for it, who's the one that's going to fight the most? If you look at folks worldwide, I submit to you in my limited amount of traveling that the American people are the most well equipped, experienced, and rebellious people on the planet. We've been a country for about 250 years. And the majority of that time, we've been at war. It's in our DNA at this point. Since the time those Europeans stepped foot on this continent, they've had to go through guerrilla warfare with us, Native Americans, Black folks, those people out there in the swamps. They had to go through guerrilla warfare. They had to fight traditionally against the French, the Spanish, the Mexicans, the British, Then black folks have had to fight in every single war. Black folks had to fight every single war. So we're that they try to formalize that mark of the beast, and it's going to be a slow ride, slippery slope. It's going to be, they say about the frog in the pot. If you put the frog in hot water, it'll jump right out every time. But you put the frog in some cold water and slowly warm it up, he'll sit there and boil to death. He'll sit there and boil to death. So that's why they're going to slow grind it. But when it comes time to formally say, take this mark of the beast, and it's the only way you can buy or sell. Can't use US dollars, can't use gold coins, can't use cryptocurrency. Only thing you can use is this one digital currency, aka the mark of the beast. You can't buy or sell without it. People in China are not going to be fighting back like that. Believe me. I've been all over the world. I've seen countries. Africa's going, hey, South Africa, hey, give me the chip. There's us Americans. We got our own guns. We're down to farm. We're down to steal. We'll do whatever we got to do. We'll do whatever we got to do to not bow down. So a lot of times you see some folks talk about, is there going to be a civil war in this country? When I hear people, especially from other countries, like other countries' media, say, oh, do you think there's going to be a civil war in America? Who? Who's going to fight a civil war? Where are you going to have it at? The last civil war we had, people walked outside in different colors. The Confederates had on red, the Union soldiers had on blue. You're fighting against the Confederates formed their own government, and it was governments versus governments. The United States government isn't fighting itself anymore. That's over with. I don't see the Army getting in fights with the Navy for control of the East Coast. I just don't see it. I don't see California and Texas forming a new statehood and saying we don't need the United States. It just won't happen. The only viable path to a civil war would be, as I'm saying, citizens who have taken the mark versus citizens who have not. That's the only path to civil war. Yeah. Like I said, man, I'm just over here driving from Atlanta to New York. If you rocked with me this far, be sure to hit the thumbs up button. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. I'll probably log back in with a different topic. Peace.